Hey everyone, Mark Meckler here, and welcome to this week's Sunday Night BattleCry. I'm super happy to be with you. As always, we're going to start with a call to action because we are about action, because we are activists. You guys are grassroots activists. I'm a grassroots activist, and that means we're doing something, right? We're not just watching the news and yelling about it, sometimes cheering about it with a lot of the good stuff that's going on right now. We're doing more than that. We're actually engaged and in gear and doing things that improve ourselves, our communities, our states, our country, families, our churches. We are engaged. And that's why I do a call to action every week, is to make sure that you guys are engaged, that you're actually doing stuff. And sometimes people will ask me, well, what should I do? So the call to action is kind of to give you some guidelines of what you can do. I'm not saying you got to do it because I say to do it. I'm just giving you some suggestions. I know a lot of you are already in action. Excuse me, you may not even need other suggestions, but this is a good one, at least from my perspective. And it's a kind of a long-term one. Next year is the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. And this is literally the foundation stone of the American system of governance. Most people have never even read the full Declaration. And even if you read the Declaration back in grammar school or junior high or high school, most people haven't even read it since then. And so as we move forward, I think there's 450 days or 480 days until next July 4th in 2026. You have a lot of time to get ready. And one of the things I want to encourage you to do first is read the Declaration of Independence. And don't just read it. Take the time to slow down and read it, to consider what they were going through, what caused them to write it. Look at the Bill of Grievances, the particulars that were in there. And look, they say that they feel like they owe it to the world to explain why they're separating from England. Note the section that you hear me quote often about pledging their lives, fortunes, and sacred honor to each other. Pay attention to the fact that they're pledging that to each other. And then think about the context of it. Think about the fact that the men who signed that were essentially assigning their death warrants. I want you to think about it and read it and study it. And you have over a year to do this. That doesn't mean don't do it now. I want you to do it now, but you can do it multiple times. And then maybe go online and look at some of the materials surrounding the Declaration of Independence. Learn the history around the Declaration of Independence. One thing that I found fascinating when I started studying it years ago is that many of the colonies and many local jurisdictions, townships and counties had actually issued their own declarations of independence before the Declaration of Independence was issued by the country. This was a pretty widely held sentiment by the time it's actually issued in the official form for the new country, giving birth to our new country. So I'm going to recommend that you start studying that if you have kids or grandkids, study it with them. We're going to be preparing over the next year plus for that 250th anniversary. I've got all kinds of exciting announcements I'm going to make a little bit later in the year. We've got a big partnership with Patriot Academy to announce. They're going to be doing some big things around the 250 celebration. But what you can do right now, not right now, because I want you to watch the BattleCry, but after the BattleCry, or tonight or tomorrow, pull up a copy of the Declaration of Independence and read it. And not just skim through, but really contemplate it. Read it like it's important to you to know what it means, because it is important that you know what it means. And as part of that, I want to remind you to, I feel weird even saying this. I don't need to remind you to be a patriot. You are a patriot. But I want to talk a little bit about what it means to be a patriot, because being a patriot is more than just saying, I'm a patriot, or saying the Pledge of Allegiance, or singing God Bless America. Being a patriot means that you love your country, that you truly love your country. I love the United States of America. I understand what she represents. I understand that she's a beacon of freedom in the world. I understand that she, in my opinion, is the greatest country ever to exist. So I love my country. I'm devoted to my country. I think you see this through the Convention of States cause. I'm devoted to my country. I'm willing to fight for my country. I'm willing to spend my time advocating for the restoration of the Constitution for my country. And I'm loyal to her. I put her interests above all others. Now, you might see me wearing an Israel shirt right now, an Israel hat. We're going to talk about why I'm wearing that. What I wear most of the time is an American flag or things that are patriotic towards the United States of America, because I'm devoted and loyal to my country. And I have a lot of pride in our country. Pride not only in our system of governance and our history, but also our shared culture. And I think that culture is fracturing, and I think we're not doing enough to educate and inculcate people on what it means to be American. but I'm proud of what it means to be an American. I'm proud of our shared culture. I'm proud of our shared history. And at the baseline, I'm proud of our values, the things that this country was founded upon, the ideals upon which she was founded. We've not always lived up to that as a country, as individuals. And I think the thing that makes America so extraordinary is if you belong here, if you're a patriot, you believe in those values and you strive for those values, right? Again, we're not perfect. We're human beings. The country's not perfect. No human is perfect except for Jesus Christ, the only one ever to walk the earth that was perfect. The rest of us are flawed, but we have a set of American values that we try to live up to. And so I think it's important that we also, in addition to thinking about what's the Declaration of Independence mean, what does it mean to be a patriot? And I know you guys, probably every single one of you considers yourselves a patriot. I consider you patriots. But if somebody says, well, what does that really mean? I hope that you will take the time to sort of internalize that and figure out exactly what that means. I think part of it is, by the way, America first. And I know that's become a controversial phrase. It's not America only, and it's not America to the exclusion of everybody else. Excuse me. But it is America first. And so I hope you'll read that Declaration of Independence. I hope you'll consider what it means to be a patriot. And we'll spend the next year plus working on that together. And so that when it comes time for that 250 celebration, you and I are on the same page and we can celebrate together. I think it's going to be incredible. I'm going to switch from positive stuff to some really negative stuff. And I'm sorry to do this to kind of open up the show, but I think it's important. You might wonder, like, I'm wearing an IDF hat, Israeli Defense Forces hat. Excuse me, I'm wearing an Israel shirt. You can see it says Israel. It has the Israeli flag on it. Why am I doing this today? Well, I'm doing this because this week in Washington, D.C., 2 young staffers from the Israeli embassy were gunned down in cold blood. Why were they gunned down? Well, they were gunned down because they were at an event at the Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C., and they were coming out of this event, this young couple about to be engaged, beautiful young couple. I hope you've looked at the pictures and paid your respects. They're headed next week to Israel. He had already bought the ring. They were about to be engaged, and they were gunned down by somebody who comes out of the pro-Palestinian movement. And I don't want you to just take my word for it. I want you to see this clip of what happened when they grabbed this guy after he gunned down these 2 young people.
Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
It's really hard for me to watch that. The thing you don't see are the 2 bodies laying nearby that he gunned down from. They were literally had their backs turned. They walked past him. He shot him in the back. Apparently, it got worse than that. These were 2, as I said, 2 young people. Yaron Lashinsky, who's a 30-year-old German Israeli. He's described as a Christian who had a Jewish father and a Christian mother. He was noted for his devotion to Israel and Zionism. His soon-to-be fiancée, Sarah Milgram, 26-year-old American Jew, also reported to have been a Christian. Some sources report both of them as quote-unquote Messianic Jews or Jewish believers in Christ, which is me. They call it a Messianic Jew. I'm a Jewish Christian. That doesn't make it any worse for me. It just, the whole thing is so horrifying. If you read the descriptions, and I'm going to get a little bit graphic here, and I apologize for this, but I just want you to understand how cold-blooded this was. He shot them in the backs. He then walked over to Sarah as she was laying there, trying to get up, apparently, or moving, and shot her several more times as she was looking at him. Apparently, the young man, Yaron, was trying to crawl away and turned over, and he shot him several more times at point blank range before he walked away, and he went inside the event, and apparently people didn't realize that he was the shooter. And so they tried to render aid to him. They thought he was just a distressed bystander. When they realized he was a shooter, they arrested him. And then you saw what he said there. And this is really, really important that we focus on this. What he said was free Palestine. If you paid any attention, you've heard that before. That cadence, that sing song, Free, Free Palestine. If you haven't heard it before, you should have. That's the chant of all the protesters at all these pro-Hamas protests and demonstrations all over the country that have been taking place literally since the day after the Palestinians broke into Israel, slaughtered 1,200 men, women, and children, threw babies in ovens, raped women in front of their families, killed grandmothers and grandfathers, and kidnapped over 250 people and took them into Gaza. That's the chant that these pro-Hamas terrorists in our own country have been chanting since all those Jews were murdered. This guy, he's not just some madman. He is a natural outgrowth of that movement. That movement promotes intifada. What is intifada? It's revolution or uprising. And in our own country, on our own campuses, right here in the United States of America, in our own cities, in New York City, at Columbia University, at Harvard University, at all of these major Ivy League universities, and pretty much universities all over the country, they've been chanting for intifada. And I want you to understand what that means. That means an uprising here in this country. Intifada is intimately connected with violence and always has been. And they will try to gaslight you and they will tell you that's not the case and they're just against occupation and all this stuff. But this guy is the natural outgrowth. When you call the Jews Nazis, when you say the Jews have no right to fight back against people that are still holding hostages a year and a half later, when you say free, free Palestine, when you say from the river to the sea, you are talking, advocating for the genocide of all Jews. And when people say, these people say that there's a genocide going on in Gaza, then they're throwing out the definition of genocide. They're getting rid of it because genocide is trying to kill all the people. And by all expert accounts, and I mean all expert accounts, one of the greatest experts on civilian warfare in all of history has studied this. And he says that Israel is conducting the most singular humanitarian urban warfare campaign ever conducted in history. When the United States went into Iraq and we were doing urban warfare, the kill ratio, there's always going to be collateral casualties. It's horrible. It's bad. That's part of urban warfare. When you go into most urban warfare, there's a huge kill ratio, generally speaking, of combatants to actual civilians. And civilians usually killed way more than combatants in a civilian area, a densely populated urban area combat scenario. In Iraq, the U.S. had a 5 civilians to 1 combatant kill ratio. And that's not considered bad, by the way. In Israel right now, it's 1 to 1. And why is it 1 to 1? It's because Israel has dropped over 70 million leaflets in Gaza telling people to leave, to get out because it's coming. They've made over 70,000 phone calls to people's cell phones telling them to get out of buildings that were going to be targeted because they were being used by Hamas to hide behind civilians. They've sent hundreds of thousands of text messages to phones inside Gaza telling people to clear out because they were going to be targeting Gaza infrastructure in schools, infrastructure in homes, infrastructure in hospitals. This is by far the most clean, precise, and targeted warfare that has ever taken place in an urban environment. Is it bad that there are civilian casualties? Of course it's bad. Is it bad that quote unquote innocents are dying? Of course it's bad. But Israel has done everything it can to avoid that while Hamas hides behind Palestinian civilians. They hide in schools, they hide in hospitals, they hide in mosques. And that makes, according to international law, all of those things legitimate targets of war. And meanwhile, you have guys like this guy, who, by the way, is not Arab. He's just a radicalized Marxist, anti-American, anti-Western civilization guy. They found all his postings. He's called for this kind of stuff for years. He's called for violence. He comes straight out of this movement. He says the same things as everybody else in this movement. And if we are surprised that a guy like this murdered 2 innocent people on the street in New York, then shame on us. You should not be surprised by that. This is not the first, and it will not be the last. Mark my words. I hate to say this, and I'm going to be sad to say I told you so because it's horrifying. This kind of violence is going to continue until we stop this kind of stuff in America. We are being infiltrated in hate for America. We are being infiltrated by a worldview that hates the Western world, hates Christians, hates Jews, hates America, hates freedom, hates everything we stand for. We're being infiltrated by that, and we are allowing it. Our tolerance is allowing us to be infiltrated by intolerance. And we can't do this anymore. We have to stop allowing this in our society. These people should be pushed to the fringe of society. They should not be welcomed on campuses. They should not be welcomed in our institutions. They certainly shouldn't be welcomed in our Congress. In our Congress, you have Ilhan Omar, who, when asked about this killing, was said, "I've got to go now." Like, she wouldn't even comment and condemn this killing. She wouldn't condemn the killer. She wouldn't say that she prays for the victim's family or the victims. She should be kicked out of Congress. She married her brother to violate citizenship law. She shouldn't even be here. She should be expelled from this country. She certainly shouldn't be in our Congress. And I will say it openly and bluntly here. She is, Ilhan Omar, an enemy of the United States of America. And the fact that she's infiltrated our Congress, along with Rashida Tlaib, who also is an enemy of the United States of America, they should not be in our Congress. They are not loyal to the United States of America. They do not believe in American values, and they shouldn't be here. And people like this, and I'm seeing a bunch of support for this stuff on the internet, we're going to have to figure out how to deal with this, friends, because this is a cancer inside the United States of America. There's never been a country in history that allowed anti-Semitism to run rampant that ended up okay. This is more than a canary in a coal mine. This is a hand grenade in the coal mine, and we're going to have to do something about it. But I, for one, am going to speak up about it. I'm going to speak up on behalf of Yaron Lashinsky. I'm going to speak up on behalf of Sarah Milgram, and may their memories be a blessing, and may they not have died in vain. I hope it lit something up in you and said, this has to stop. This is outrageous. We can't let this happen. With that, I'm going to turn to the Middle East more generally because it's wild over there right now. You have the Israelis doing in Gaza what I believe they should have done long ago, what Joe Biden kept them from doing for a very long time, which is they're going to take Gaza. They are currently physically in control now of over 50% of Gaza, and they're going to have to take control of 100% of Gaza, and they're going to. They're going to continue through Gaza, and they're going to take total military control of all of Gaza because no nation state, this is not just for Israel, can ever tolerate a terrorist state on their border trying to destroy them, who in their charter, by the way, in Hamas charter and Hezbollah charter, they are dedicated to the eradication of Israel. They are dedicated to the wiping out of Jews, to genocide. No nation state can tolerate that on their border. Would the United States tolerate that if Mexico itself were dedicated to the eradication of the United States or even part of the United States? No, of course we wouldn't tolerate that. And so now the Israelis are being forced to do what the world has kept them from doing for a very long time, is they are going to eradicate Hamas. They are going to take military control of Gaza. I don't know exactly what comes after that, but what comes after that, I can tell you this, is better security for Israel, because they're not going to have Gaza lobbing rockets across the border, and they're not going to have a fence that's getting torn down where people flow across and kill 1,250 Israelis. They're not going to have that anymore. And they're going to have to deal with Hezbollah in the north as well. In Lebanon, they've demilitarized a large zone. They're going to have to create a buffer zone there so that rockets can't be fired on northern Israel. And then ultimately, they're going to have to deal with Tehran. And a lot of people are saying, well, we shouldn't be involved in Tehran. Are you kidding me? You understand that the Iranians intend to nuclearize. They want nuclear weapons on ballistic missiles, which they've said they're going to use on us and they're going to use on Israel. They have not said that these are defensive. They're not doing this for defense. They're doing it because they believe they have an obligation to wipe Israel off the map. And they call us Big Satan, Israel, Little Satan. You know, I think when madmen are seeking nuclear weapons and they tell us what they're going to do with them, we have an obligation to stop it. And right now, I don't know if we're going to do that, but I think the Israelis will. And I think we should support them in that. And also, I just want to say to the people who say, and this goes to folks like Tucker Carlson and others that think this is none of our business and why are we doing that? If you think we can hide from intercontinental ballistic missiles with nuclear warheads on them, I just think that kind of isolationism is foolish. The mullahs have told us what they intend to do, and we better take them at their word. When we don't do that, we end up on our heels. We end up with a lot of dead Americans, and I think we need to deal with this. And to those who say, well, that means we're going to have World War III, I just think that's dumb. If you look at what the Iranians have and what they have capability to do, they don't have the capability to wage World War III. China's not going to wage World War III on their behalf. Russia's not going to wage World War III on their behalf. There are no world powers that are going to engage on Iran's behalf if we denuclearize them militarily. So this idea that it's a binary choice between we do nothing and we let them nuclearize and we let madmen bent on Armageddon have nuclear weapons, or we have World War III, I don't think that's the case. I think we do denuclearize them, allow Israel to do so, which I think they are fully capable of doing, give them whatever assistance they need, no boots on the ground for us. And then I think they'll be effectively neutered. They have no air defenses right now. This is not a world war scenario. This is a scenario to prevent a worldwide nuclear war. So you can tell I feel pretty passionate about it. That's why I'm wearing my Israel shirt, my Israel Defense Forces hat, because I just think this is the right thing to do for the Western world. Israel is the point of the spear in the Western world. If you believe in Western values, if you believe in democracy, if you believe in people having voting rights, if you believe in people having civil rights, the only country in the Middle East that has those things is Israel. There are over 2 million Arabs that live in Israel, and they have full rights. They vote. They serve in government. They have businesses. They serve on the Supreme Court. They have the same rights as Israeli citizens. People try to say it's an apartheid state. That's a funny kind of apartheid. The Middle East is a mess. It requires real politics. You have to pay attention to what's going on and being willing to do what it takes to help make that situation as good as it can be. It's a mess. I get it. It's not pretty. I get it. But that's the real world. And we have to deal with the world as it is, not as we wish it were. All right, turning from international stuff to national stuff. This week, we had an incredible event. We saw the House of Representatives pass Trump's big, beautiful bill. And by the way, slim margin, 215 to 214. A couple of people weren't there. A couple of people Republicans who didn't really want to vote for it, but didn't want to be in the position of voting against it. The one Republican vote against it, Thomas Massie. Look, I agree with a lot of Massie's philosophy, but he votes against everything. There's literally nothing he thinks the government should do. He's a radical libertarian. I think the guy's really smart. I agree with a lot of the things that he says, but a government has to govern, and he doesn't have the votes to get what he wants. Man, I would love if he had the votes to get what he wants, but he does not have that, so people have to compromise. So they call it a big, beautiful bill. Is it a big, beautiful bill? Well, it's big. It's not as beautiful. It's big. It spends way too much money, in my opinion. It continues to inflate the debt. It continues to run a deficit. I don't like any of that. It doesn't get the entitlement program spending under control. I don't like any of that. There's a lot of stuff I would rather have seen in this bill. I think there's tons to criticize in the bill if you look to criticize. But what I have to say is on a 215 to 214 basis, it's my opinion that this is the best you're going to get. It just is. You're not going to get what you want. If you're like me and you're a true fiscal hawk, if you're a fiscal conservative, if you're somewhat of a defense hawk, I'm probably moderately a defense hawk, you're not going to get what you want out of this bill. There's just no way. The margin is too narrow. Here's what we did get that I think is good. We got 1.7 trillion in real spending cuts. Now, over 10 years, which is what this projects, that's not a lot. It's not enough to make a difference in the trajectory of the country, in my opinion. But I want to say, first time we've had real spending cuts in decades. Okay, so give them some credit where credit is due. It's better than everything that's come before it for a very long time. It does have a work requirement for Medicare. I think this is really important. It's about time that we put a work requirement in for all welfare programs. And that work requirement kicks in pretty quickly. It wasn't pushed down the road like some of the more centrist Democrats or centrist Republicans wanted. It increases the SALT deduction, which is a deduction that state level taxpayers can take on their state level income tax and their property taxes. And it raised that deduction, and I believe it raised it from $10,000 to $30,000. I don't like that because that shifts the burden from high tax blue states onto low tax red states on federal tax. So we shouldn't do that. If blue states want to tax their citizens to death, well, they should pay the price for that. The rest of us shouldn't. But it didn't raise it as much as they wanted. They wanted $40,000. And I believe it capped it to lower income folks, which is better as well. The New York delegation fought for that, and a few other folks from more moderate districts. They called themselves, I guess, or people called them the SALT caucus, trying to protect that and increase that deduction. I don't love that, but it could have been a lot worse. It does things like defund USAID. There's no money in there for USAID, and it's about dang time that they did that. So that's really good. So I think if you look, there's a bunch of good stuff in there. I also think if you look, there's going to be a bunch of bad stuff in there. But I also think this is the best you or I can expect. And I give credit and kudos to Mike Johnson and President Trump for working together to get this done. By the way, if they didn't get this done, then President Trump's tax cuts were going to expire. His tax cuts from his first term, they were going to expire at the end of this year. And that would have been the largest tax increase in the history of the United States of America that would have hit virtually everyone. And so it's good that this bill passed. It'll now go to the Senate. The Senate's been working on their own version. They'll likely pass a different version. They'll have to put those two things together and they'll pass it through a budget mechanism called reconciliation. They're going to use reconciliation, which they can do on budget measures because it doesn't require a 60 vote majority, what's called cloture, in order to get to a floor vote. It's a simple majority vote. And I think they're going to get it done. And I think this is going to cause more stability in the economy. And Lord knows we need that right now. Moody's just downgraded our debt rating. That's bad. And I think it's not unreasonable. That means that bondholders are worried we're not going to pay off our debt in the future, or we're going to inflate our way out of it by inflating the currency, meaning bondholders will get paid later in less valuable dollars, meaning a lower return for them. Look, we're in a tenuous fiscal spot. We better start to get our house in order. It's not going to be this bill is not enough. We need to actually reform entitlement programs. We need to cut actual spending, but we're going to need a bigger majority to do that. I think this is a step in the right way. So I think it's good news overall. I know a lot of people are frustrated. It's not what I would have wanted, but I think it's good news overall. In other good news, President Trump continues to kneecap Harvard, and Harvard has become a bastion of anti-American hate, CCP, Communist Chinese Party influence, wokeism, DEI, all this bad stuff. Harvard is a hotbed for that stuff. And the president just did something incredible, which is the government now says any exchange students on foreign visas must be out. They have to leave. Harvard lost its right to host exchange students. I think this is fantastic because there are Chinese exchange students there that are just agents of the CCP. I'm not saying all of them, but they're there. Absolutely. Generally, when people go overseas, the CCP keeps a pretty tight grip on them. Their families back at home, there's all kinds of threats. They might be good people, but they know if they do anything that's not pro-CCP here in the United States, their family will suffer. So they're getting rid of the CCP students. They're getting rid of all foreign exchange students. Also, by the way, the university charges foreign exchange students full boat plus on their tuition. So it's very profitable for the universities. All those people have to leave Harvard. And they actually didn't just get kicked out of the country. So people, Democrats, bleeding hearts, if you're watching me, don't panic. They didn't get kicked out. They're just going to have to go to another institution. And Trump is going after all these institutions that are allowing this Hamas Nazi propaganda to be perpetuated on their campuses, this anti-Semitism running rampant on the campuses, the DEI, the wokeism running rampant on their campuses. He's bringing the boom down on them. And I think this is fantastic. And Harvard is whining, and the more they whine, the happier I am. So that's great news this week. Trump coming down on Harvard. Here's more great news this week. Marco Rubio, I don't know what's gotten into the guy. I mean, I like Marco. He's an endorser of Convention of States, but I feel like he's become a superhero. And if you didn't see this hearing this week, Marco Rubio was in the Senate in a hearing, And in the middle of the hearing, it seems like he ripped open his shirt and showed his muscles and his Superman logo on his shirt. Producer G, show us that clip.
And I have to tell you directly and personally that I regret voting for you for Secretary of State. I yield back.
May I respond?
You may sit.
Well, first of all, your regret for voting for me confirms I'm doing a good job based on what I know.
Well, that's just a flippant statement, Mr. Secretary.
Can I respond, Mr. Chairman?
You may.
I didn't ask.
Senator,
question.
please let the Secretary have
I'd be
the floor.
happy to, but then I can respond to his.
Your time is
How
up,
good is
Senator,
this? Like, he's not going to take
woefully
it.
used, I might add.
Well,
your
I love
remarks
it.
do not represent the view of this committee.
Well, Mr. Chairman-
Secretary, please.
Well, I'd like to. I can't respond to everything he said because much of these are untrue, but I'll go through a few. First of all, I'm actually very proud of the work we've done with USAID. For example, I don't regret cutting $10 million for male circumcisions in Mozambique. I don't know how that makes us stronger and more prosperous as a nation.
I raised
don't regret
Sudan, Mr.
psychosocial support services.
I
for
raised
USAID.
Sudan, Mr. Secretary.
Can I respond,
not
Mr. Chairman, or do I?
Senator, Senator, I'd ask you to suspend. You had 7 straight minutes.
I chose to use my time.
Slapping him
Mr.
down.
Chairman, that's my right.
Chairman
Please
slapping him
suspend.
down.
Secretary Rubio.
Well, I
He
can go
deserves
on.
to
I
be
mean, there's
stopped.
other things here. We spent $227,000 for Big Cat's YouTube channel from USAID. We spent $14 million for social cohesion in Mali, whatever the hell that means. So I can go on and on. I got the list here, and there's more. I didn't even bring the whole list. In the case of El Salvador, absolutely. Absolutely. We deported gang members, including the one who
Amen.
had a margarita with.
Amen.
And that guy is a human trafficker, and that guy is a gangbanger, and the evidence is going to be clear. In the days to come,
Mr.
you're going to
Chairman,
see who you went to
look,
defend.
Senator,
I'm sorry,
please.
Mr. Chairman.
Secretary
No.
Rubio has the floor.
Mr. Chairman, he can't make unsubstantiated comments
Senator,
like that.
Secretary Rubio has the floor. You've had
Secretary
your time.
Rubio should take that testimony to the federal
Look how
court of the
calm he
United
looks.
States because he hasn't done it under oath.
Here's another point, okay? There is a division in our government between the federal branch and the judicial branch. No judge in the judicial branch cannot tell me or the president how to conduct foreign policy. No judge
gotta
can
love
tell
this.
me how I have to outreach to a foreign partner or what I need to say to them. And if I do reach to that foreign partner and talk to them, I am under no obligation to share that with the judiciary branch. Just like a judge cannot order me to negotiate with a foreign minister of Russia, they cannot order me to negotiate with a foreign minister or the president of El Salvador. And if I did negotiate with them, which we have responded to them, and we've told them, we've had communications with the president of El Salvador, I am under no obligation under our division of powers in this country and to share with the judicial branch how I conducted diplomacy of the United States. It would actually be counterproductive. If I started sharing with courts, or frankly, with the media, my conversations with foreign leaders and all of their details, no foreign leader would talk to me again.
I don't know about you guys, but I've watched that a bunch of times, and it inspires me equally every single time I watch it. I do feel like it's like the shirt tears open, the Superman logo is there. Marco Rubio has absolutely leveled up. I mean, I like Marco Rubio. He's been a supporter of ours for a long time. That's a guy with presidential gravitas. I mean, that's a guy who's been a senator for a long time. I believe he was a state legislator before that. And now he's getting this international experience, and he is proving his mettle on the international stage and right there in the Senate, where he just chewed that guy up and spit him out. And he treated him with the disdain that the senator deserved to be treated with. These senators who try to grandstand and try to say things that are untrue. And Marco Rubio, our great Secretary of State, one of a kind at this point, is having none of it. So I'm pretty excited to see that. I don't know about you guys, but it jacks me up. If you want to have a good weekend, watch that a few times over and over. You will cheer. You will toast a glass to Marco Rubio. I just thought that was extraordinary. In other extraordinary news, and I don't want to say this is good news, it's weird news. It turns out that President Biden has stage 4 metastasized into the bones prostate cancer. And the media is acting like they're surprised about this. Other politicians are acting like they're surprised about this. I'm surprised about it in the sense that it didn't just happen. I'm surprised about it in the sense that it takes a long time to get stage 4 prostate cancer, generally speaking. My dad had prostate cancer. I know a lot of other people have had prostate cancer. You don't get to stage 4 prostate cancer like boom, like months after you leave the presidency. That's not how it works. And now there's a cover up around all this stuff. Who knew what when? You go back and look at the official records and they claim he hasn't had a prostate check at what's called a prostate-specific androgen test, which PSA test, as most guys know it. Just a simple blood test. He hasn't had one for 14 years. That's weird. That's a very normal test. I have those tests every year. Everybody I know around my age or older, generally once you're maybe 50, we all have them almost every year. The fact that he hasn't had one for 14 years, oh, maybe he didn't have good medical care, right? You mean as vice president of the United States for 8 years? That I heard somebody say that he couldn't afford it. They didn't want to spend the money on it. It's cheap. And as the vice president of the United States, he has the best medical care in the world. As president of the United States, he had the best medical care in the world. They covered this up, just like they did their best to cover up the fact that Joe Biden had advanced dementia. They had auto pens signing things for him because he had no idea what he was signing. He couldn't sign anymore. He couldn't speak. There's all kinds of stuff coming out. Jake Tapper has a new book out called Original Sin. I think Jake Tapper is kind of revolting. He knew this stuff. He covered it up along with everybody else. At least he's doing a bit of a mea culpa. The media knew. The politicians knew. Biden's staffers around him knew. Biden's family knew. And they also all knew that he had prostate cancer. And they sacrificed him. It's like human sacrifice, right? It's like they run around propping his almost lifeless body up. For what? For their power? Can you imagine doing that to your dad or your husband, anybody in your family? I wouldn't do it to a complete stranger, let alone to somebody they allegedly loved and respect and admired. So I think we're just beginning this controversy. It's not going to go away. You hear Democrats saying, oh, that's all past and he's got cancer now, so we shouldn't be talking about his dementia or anything else. We should all just pray for him. Yes, you should pray for him. We're supposed to pray for people we disagree with, people we don't like, even our enemies. And yes, you should pray for his healing. I have prayed for his healing, and you should do that, and we all should do that. But there's a scale cover up here, at scale, massive. This health stuff with Joe Biden, in my opinion, is the largest scandal in American history around the presidency. And maybe since Woodrow Wilson, he was completely debilitated. Edith Wilson ran the presidency at the end of his presidency, but nobody really knew that. We all knew it. And we knew it because we have 24/7 media, and we could see it with our own eyes on camera. We could see they were hiding from the American public. We could see he wasn't doing press events. We could see he wasn't doing other public events the way a president normally would. We all knew, and they covered it up. And the Democrats can and must be made to pay the price for this. And the price should be that the American people shouldn't trust a single thing that comes out of their mouths. When they start saying, yeah, we knew this and we covered it up and mea culpa, we're bad, we shouldn't have done that, maybe at that point, people can begin trusting them again. But major Democrat figures, including Van Jones, are coming out and saying the Democrat Party has a trust problem with the American people, and it's well earned. It's truly horrifying. I've not seen anything like this in my lifetime. This makes Watergate look tiny, what this is. They ran the American presidency without a cogent, coherent, healthy man in that office. They ran it for him. It was a puppet regime. We need to know who was running it, who ran the auto pen, what did they know, when did they know it? And maybe some of those actions are completely illegitimate at this point. If Joe Biden had no idea what was he doing and couldn't give any authorization, he did not have the mental competence in order to say, yeah, we're going to do those things. And maybe those things, maybe they're not legal. Maybe some of the things, maybe the pardons he gave with that auto pen are not legal. Maybe he didn't even know who he was pardoning, so he had no intent. He has to be able to express his intent and be cogent enough to express his intent for that auto pen to legally sign things on his behalf. So I think we're entering some uncharted territory here. We'll see what happens. Again, prayers for Joe Biden and his family. I don't wish illness on anybody. But if you believe anybody's really surprised that they covered this up, and then you must be a leftist, because I don't know what to say about it. All right, we're going to go to my favorite part of the show, which is Q&A. But before we do that, we've got a few announcements that producer G says I need to make. I always need to make this one, which is don't forget to subscribe. So you got to hit the like button. hit the subscribe button, ring the notification bell, send up smoke signals, make a phone call, whatever you got to do. Make sure you subscribe so that you get the notices for all our new content, and also spread that to your friends and your family, because, friends don't let friends go without the battle cry on Sunday night. We've got Memorial Day here this weekend, and don't forget about Memorial Day. And this is a really big one to me. I don't like the way we celebrate Memorial Day. It's all hot dogs and good times in the park with the family. Memorial Day is a somber day. It's meant to memorialize those who gave all in the fight for the United States of America. All. They gave their lives. They didn't come home. Their families suffered. Their friends suffered. Their community suffered, and they paid the ultimate price. And so at least at some point during Memorial Day, maybe it's the morning when you get up and in your quiet time and your prayer time, that you go to your knees and you thank the Lord for those who are willing to give all, and you pray for their eternal souls, and you pray for their families. You pray for the wives. You pray for the kids without fathers. You pray for the brothers without brothers. You pray for all the people who came home and left loved ones, friends, and compatriots behind. That's what Memorial Day is about. We thank them for their sacrifice, because our ability to celebrate, our ability to have that beer and that hot dog, our ability to be free, my ability to make this battle cry, is because people like that were willing to give all. And some of them they did. And that's why we remember Memorial Day. It's a little somber. So I'm going to keep going here. We're going to go to the Q&A. Remember, we have an open letter to Elon Musk right now, conventionofstates.com/Musk. We want him to support Convention of States. We also have an open letter to President Trump, conventionofstates.com/Trump. Go ahead and sign those. And then before I go to questions, last but not least, you notice a lot of times I'm wearing very cool COS swag. Today, I have my Israel gear on. I explained to you why. But I want to show you some great stuff, because we have something called the Patriots Club. That is a monthly donor club. That's where you commit to giving money monthly to Convention of States. We need your donations. And so what we have is we have a few levels there. We have the revolutionary level. Revolutionary level gets you this baseball cap. I love this cap. It's so cool. I love the flag on the front. I love the COS on the side, the COS logo in front. It's a really nice cap, beautiful canvas cap. I think you're going to like it too. Check that out. Isn't that a pretty one? I love that cap. So that's what you get if you go for the revolutionary level. If you go to the Patriot level, you're going to get this. And what else? You're going to get this, which is absolutely my favorite pocket knife. I don't know if you guys can see that. It's got the COS logo embossed on it. It's got an assist opening blade. I love those things. I play with these things all day long. Isn't that cool? Super nice knife. Bottle opener here on the back, and I think it's a seat belt cutter too. I use it to open bottles. That's the COS knife. So that's what you get if you are at the Ranger level or the Patriot level. You get the Ranger pocket knife. And then if you're at the Statesman level, you're going to get this, which is our cool new Live Free or Die mug. I love that. It's got the Patriot facts on the back. It says things like Article 5, 1,776%, total patriotism, 100%. It's cool. It's got Convention of States supporter, 100%. Cool mug. That's what you get if you're at the Statesman level. You're going to get the Live or Die mug, the hat, and the knife. But wait, there's more. This is like an infomercial, right? If you go to the Founder level, you're going to get all that stuff. Plus, you're going to get my new favorite tee. This is the Live Free or Die t-shirt. That's a really cool shirt. I love the material. It's got the COS logo on one side, the American flag on the other sleeve. So you get all of that stuff, the mug, the hat, the knife. All you got to do is get to the Founder level. You're going to get all that stuff. And I'm going to be appreciative of you. We do calls every quarter. If you're part of the Patriot Club, you get to get on a call with me. I give you some of the inside scoop. All right, we're going to go to our Ask Mark Anything section. Remember, you could submit questions at conventionofstates.com/Ask Mark. Sharon says, we've signed enough petitions to get Convention of States on the ballot. Why isn't it happening? It's not a ballot measure, Sharon. Legally, you can't ask for a Convention of States via a vote. You can't do an initiative or a proposition, even in the states that have those things. The only way to get to a Convention of States is if the state legislatures meet and then they pass a Convention of States resolution. We need 34 states to do that. So far, 19 and a half states have done it. We have 19 states plus North Carolina still in session. Their House of Representatives has done it. We're in the Senate right now working on that. Mark White asks, Since the 25th Amendment appears to be a failure with respect to the Joe Biden presidency, would a revision of this amendment be appropriate for a convention of states? 25th Amendment is the amendment whereby the vice president can initiate and the cabinet can help finish off the removal of the president for physical or mental incompetence. He's unable to carry out his job anymore. I'm not sure what the revision would be. I mean, I guess you could put some form of liability if it can be proven that the president was actually incompetent and those folks didn't do it. Maybe you could build in some form of criminal penalties or something. Might be really hard to prove. Proving mental incompetence at a particular past point in time is often very difficult. I'll have to think about that, Mark. I understand what you're saying. They should have exercised the 25th Amendment, although I'm a little bit horrified to think that Kamala Harris would have actually been the president at that point. I think we dodged a bullet by not having her as president. So, but I'll have to think about, or maybe you can suggest to me next week, Mark, what would be the appropriate revision if you wanted to revise the 25th Amendment. I'll let you guys think about that. I'll leave you with that. Have a great week, and God bless you guys. I'll see you next week on the BattleCry.